Hello, it's Phil Thatch, and Heather and I are here once again at the Chickamauga Dam, kind of experimenting today. We were hoping there would be more osprey activity, but there's not very much out here today, and she is shooting with the Z50 and the 200 to 500 Nikon lens, and I have brought something different. There's Heather working with the 200 to 500, and I am working with this super ridiculously tiny Canon R6 and 100 to 500 lens. It is tiny.
All right, there is a great blue heron in flight. I made this shot with the Canon R6 and the 100 to 500, and all of these pictures, unless I mention otherwise, I'm using the eye detect autofocus. Here's Heather's shot. She took a picture of this turkey vulture sunning itself. This was on top of a boxcar, and the boxcar was just about to start moving, so she pointed it out to me, and I made this shot of the same turkey vulture as it was taking off from the boxcar as it began to move. I thought the shadow of the turkey vulture there on the boxcar is pretty cool. And here's another R6 photo that I made. This is a northern mockingbird. Now I was able to move around Heather. I just parked her in the wheelchair and she didn't move at all, so I got to see more things.
This is our favorite nesting box, number 18 here at the dam. It's great to do photography of because the tree swallows will nest here, and there's a tree right above it, so you can get the tree swallows in the tree. Heather's shooting an osprey that's coming by right now. But this year there are English house sparrows nesting in it. But we have been having a nice time making photographs of the parents as they are bringing food in to the nestlings.
Here is Heather's photo. This is a female English house sparrow, and you can see that it has some food that it's gathered up to feed its youngsters in the birdhouse. And I made a photograph of the male house sparrow. That's a train in the background up on the train track with lots of colors as it went by, so I really like the color in this shot. And here is Heather's shot of the male house sparrow in the tree with the beautiful blue sky in the background. I think even though the English house sparrow is an invasive species here in the United States, it's still probably, the male especially, may be the most beautiful sparrow that I've ever seen. And here is one of the babies in the nest. Now this birdhouse is where the tree swallows normally breed, but right now the sparrows are in there, and here is the tree swallow in the tree above looking down. And I guess they're waiting for those nestlings to fledge, and then they'll take over that nest box. At least I hope they'll be able to do that. Here's another one of my photographs. This is on the rocks that are down below the birdhouse leading down to the water of the male house sparrow with a mouthful of food. And here is Heather's shot of the female house sparrow in the tree with a mouthful of food. I guess those are mayflies that they've captured. And Heather made this shot, really cool shot of the female feeding the youngsters there in the birdhouse. Pretty cool shot. Lots of nice light, and everything is beautiful in this shot. And here is another one of my shots of the male house sparrow with a mouthful of food for the babies. Those babies are going to be fat because they were just constantly bringing them food. And Heather got a picture also of the male bringing some food to the nestlings there in the birdhouse near the Chickamauga Dam in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
I have this knob set to adjust aperture, this knob set to do shutter speed. This is a dial, not a directional pad, but a dial, and this does ISO. And then this zooms, and this is manual focus, but there's another ring on this lens with this RF system. You can program it to do whatever you want, and I have it set to do exposure compensation. So everything has its own dial, and you don't have to press a button and twist the dial at the same time. It's pretty nice.
Here's a photograph I made of a couple of great blue heron, and again I used the animal eye detect subject tracking for all of these photographs, and it works really well. Here is a photograph of a tree swallow on top of one of the other birdhouses. There's a lot of birdhouses there, and this birdhouse had tree swallows that were nesting in it, unlike the one that we had focused on earlier. Here's a shot of an osprey as it was flying around there at the Chickamauga Dam. You know, if it doesn't bag the eye when the bird's far away, it focuses really well on the bird without having to do any focus mode changes. And here is a great blue heron flying over the water of the Tennessee River there near the Chickamauga Dam, made with the Canon R6.
We've moved now much closer to the dam. As you can see, I'm right beside the fishing pier. All 4 of the generators are running, but none of the spillways are going like they were last time we were here. In fact, last time we were here, this concrete path that I'm sitting on was underwater. I can't get Heather's wheelchair all the way down here, but she's got a pretty good spot up there. And there are lots of osprey flying around, and we've also been shooting great blue heron.
Here's Heather's photo of a beautiful double-crested cormorant there in the waters of the Tennessee River. Really nice. I like the dark plumage and the beautiful blue eyes. Here's a shot I made of a great blue heron flying over the Tennessee River. You can see the construction where they're working on making a new lock to go through the dam there in the background. Here's Heather's photo with the Z50 of a beautiful great blue heron there on the shore of the Tennessee River. They'll stand right there and fish all day long. Here is my shot of one of the many osprey that were flying around there at the Chickamauga Dam using the R6 at 500 millimeters and f8 on this shot. Here is Heather's shot. This is a great blue heron coming in for a landing. I love the beautiful colors of the great blue heron and the wingspan she captured really well in this shot. Here's my shot of a osprey as it was flying around. That's one of the pilings that holds up the railroad bridge directly behind it, and you can see the mountains of Tennessee in the distance behind it. Here's a great blue heron that I photographed. It's just caught a fish and is about to gulp it down there in the waters of the Tennessee River. And here's Heather's shot of a great blue heron that just jumped in and attempted to catch a fish, but I believe it was either unsuccessful or it caught a fish that's so small that it has already swallowed it. But I love the splashing water she captured. Here's a beautiful osprey in flight over the Tennessee River there at the Chickamauga Dam. I stopped down to f8 quite a bit because there was plenty of light. And this shot of Heather's is really cool. The osprey is kind of hovering. This is what they do if they may have spotted a fish that they might dive for. They'll kind of slow down and hover for a little bit. And here is my shot of a great blue heron as it was flying over the Tennessee River. The light was really harsh, but both Heather and I thought, did a pretty decent job of capturing some beautiful images, especially this one. Look at the beautiful background. You know, usually it's kind of a man-made looking background there at the dam, but every once in a while you can catch a bird with a beautiful foliage background. Here is more of a man-made background with this great blue heron that I photographed flying over the Tennessee River. Beautiful colors like I mentioned before. And here is Heather's shot. That's the railroad bridge in the background, and you can see the greenery below the railroad bridge. I think that was the area where her previous shot's background was.
The little Canon combo with the R6 and the 100 to 500 is pretty impressive, but it's not infallible. Sometimes if you have a bird in the frame and you've got it locked onto it and it's a long way away, if the bird's close it won't do this, but if the bird's a long way away and it's pretty close to the background, it might lose the tracking on the bird and start focusing on the background over there.
Bonus! Later that day, Heather and I went to a different location about 20 miles upstream on the Tennessee River. Here is a photograph I made of a eastern tiger swallowtail butterfly, which I had a feeling that the 100 to 500 Canon lens would be a really good butterfly lens, but I've learned that I need to stop down. Wide open at 7.1 doesn't have quite enough depth of field, so maybe I'll shoot at f9 or f11. Here is a way in the distance shot of an osprey in flight with the Canon R6 and the 100 to 500. I thought the sky was beautiful that night. And here is a much closer shot of osprey in flight. And this is at the osprey nest where I visit quite often. The osprey flew in and landed on this branch, and I managed to get a couple of shots of it landing with the R6 and the 100 to 500. This is the same branch where I made a video of probably this same bird eating a fish a couple of weeks ago. really great location for Osprey photography. Here's a shot Heather made with the Z50 of the Osprey sitting there on that branch. Now we stayed there a full hour hoping to see the Osprey land on the nest, and it never did. But during that time, this kingfisher came up, and this is a really small in the frame shot that I had to crop fairly substantially, but I still thought there was a pretty good bit of detail in the beautiful female kingfisher. Here's another one of Heather's shots of the Osprey sitting on the branch. She has a really good way of editing. She really makes the colors look beautiful. Here's my shot of the Osprey sitting on that same branch. I caught it looking to the left where usually it was looking to the right, and I was able to move around and get nothing but foliage in the shot. This shot is kind of cool of the Osprey as it's looking out. It's looking in the general direction of where the Osprey nest is, but it really needs to go out and catch a fish and feed that family that it has growing. Here's another one of Heather's shots. Oh no, this is one of my shots of the Osprey there in the tree branch, kind of making a sound and calling. Here's Heather's shot of the Osprey there on the branch. She got some really cool shots of stretches and things that we'll see here in a little while, and all sorts of poses. You know, like I say, we stayed there for an hour, and most of that hour the Osprey sat right here on this branch, and it was still sitting right there on that branch when we left. Here it is stretching. It's always cool to get the interesting stretches that birds will do while they're resting. And on this one, I think it almost fell. We thought it was going to take off and fly, but it just spread its wings. And here it is making kind of a funny face like, ha ha, photographers, you're not going to get me in flight because I'm just going to sit here. And now we'll go back to the location we were at that morning.
Well, I have batteries on order for my new R6, but they haven't gotten here yet, and the one battery is starting to get a little low, plus the light is straight above us. I found a shady spot to say bye, but the light's coming from straight above, so even though there's lots of it, it just doesn't look very pleasing right now. So we are going to head back home, maybe get a little lunch, and charge our batteries up and see what we've got so far. We appreciate you watching this video, and as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.